Hi everyone, it's Darius Bucher, RPF, owner of Integral Forest Management Limited and the Canadian rep for RTI, the makers of Teabag fertilizer. Today is a kind of a neat day for me because it's a bit of a homecoming of sorts. I am in the Thunder River Valley, just north of Blue River in the ICH VK1. These are valleys that are known for their extreme vegetation competition. They tend to get a lot of rainfall, very heavy snow loads. As soon as anything is opened up after harvesting, the brush moves in and it can be taller than my head. So I just wanted to go over with you today using RTI Teabag fertilizer on these types of sites and how you can get the most out of it. When I first started, we were, like a lot of people, kind of surprised by how fast the brush could come back here. Foresters were spending, at that time, we're talking mid-90s, $500 a year, just doing brushing after they had planted their trees. A lot of site prep that was done at the time was broadcast burning, and as a result, foresters weren't even ordering their trees until they knew that they got the burn off successfully. And you might have to wait a year or two after that burn got off before you could even plant your trees. So by that time, the brush would be fully occupying the site. Your trees are getting buried in it, and they had to spend oodles of money digging it out. So we went about things differently. We were in the Forest Practices Code era where broadcast burning was becoming passé. First of all, due to the risk and the liability to the companies, but second of all, smaller block sizes, and thirdly, wildlife trees were desired throughout the blocks, which made, on these types of sites and these slopes, broadcast burning extremely challenging to do. So it came, for the most part, cost prohibitive and just not able to be done. So we were planting as is. Well, in order to successfully do that, we determined that the best thing to do was to throw everything at the tree at the very beginning to make sure that it overcame the brush. So the first thing that we did was we came back in here as quickly as possible after harvesting had occurred. Most of the time when I was doing it back about 20 years ago, we were within a year for the most part of when we were planting. So that was key. The second thing is we moved into large stock sizes. So we were using 412As, 1.0 spring stock. We come in here first thing as soon as the snow had melted. We put that in the ground. But then the other tool that came into the toolbox about the mid-90s was RTI Teabag fertilizer, and we started fertilizing at the time of planting to bolster those trees up. Well, it was extremely successful. Most of our blocks from that point on, brushing never happened again. The trees were able to get ahead of the brush. They got over top of it. Once they were over top of it, they never looked back. So I'm going to show you examples of what forests look like 20 years after they had been teabagged and fertilized at the time of planting on these types of sites. But right now, I'm on a site which would have been logged last winter. So this block has been sitting for just a few months. It's September of the following year. Brush doesn't look too bad right now. Everything looks pretty rosy. But I can tell you, and it's unfortunate that frost has already occurred, but this lady fern and other vegetation like it, your fireweed, everything else like that, it's going to be like 3-4 feet tall in no time flat. Within a couple of years, it will fully occupy the site. You try to plant trees into it then, and you don't do any fertilizer, you're going to be in for some pretty expensive silviculture treatments to get things going. So at any rate, these sites, we had to work with a lot of slash. And so reading the terrain, if you want to have a successful plantation, you want to do what nature does. And you can see, if you look at this row of stumps that I'm pointing at right here, with all these big trees, they're all up on a ridge. These lower areas down in the depressions, I can even hear water running because these slopes are seeping. You can see all the Devil's Club. There's no stumps in them. So first key to successful silviculture here is finding a microsite. I mean, that is after you've done everything else right, large stock, fertilize at the time of planting, short regen delay. So you want to hit your high sites. So giving you an example just up the hill here. This dry spot right here, with as little vegetation competition as possible, that was always our sweet spot. The other thing that was really nice about these stumps, these taller ones, is they also peg the snow. So we don't have the snow press issues. It's protecting the tree not only from veg press but also from snow press as it's coming down the hill. The higher, drier sites warm up earlier in the spring, give your trees a longer growing season. And when we're planting, we are not digging down to mineral soil. We're just using the duff because things just don't dry out here. You can get the plug into the duff. The organic matter is awesome because it tends to stay moist up here. Roots can easily penetrate it, and the soil biology is feeding the tree. So this is where you're going to most likely have success, in the sort of the wet areas to the side over here. You might find the odd high and dry spot, but for the most part you're going to be limited to your ridges, those kinds of things, and end up with a potentially clumpy stalking pattern, and that's okay because that's what the site's going to give you. Now the sites that I'm dealing with here around Blue River that I was traditionally working in, we have been working in the ICH VK1. So this is one of the wettest possible areas. This place can get brush that can snow under trees in no time flat. The competition here is intense, so getting your trees off to the right start is extremely important. I'm just happen to be standing on a block that was planted about 4 years ago. Come up a little bit closer. And I just want to show you one of the trees. You can see it's been at the end of a pretty dry summer, so things are a little thinner than what they normally would be. But this raspberry, thimbleberry, there's even some willow coming in. Those are the kind of things that can easily snow a tree under if it doesn't get off to a good start. This one was fertilized at the time of planting with, ironically, the Gilbert Smith-pak. But one of the things that I want to point out about this tree, of course, is the size of the crown, which is dense and bushy and thick, good color, lots of buds all the way up the top of the leader, which means that this crown is going to continue to build, which is going to continue to allow the tree to push away its competition and to outgrow it. But more than anything else, it's just how sturdy this guy is. Now, the other thing that's a real major issue in these types of sites is snow. And snow press can be an extremely big issue here. You can get 5, 6 feet, 10 feet of snow up here. Pushing down on these trees, having a thick, solid stem is really critical to getting them going. And not just having a tree that gets above the brush, but also one that has a good stem form as well. So, and you also don't want it breaking under the weight of the snow. So at any rate, fertilizing at the time of planting, getting things off to the right start on these type of sites is critical. And getting to free growing without further intervention can save you a lot of money in the long run. So of course I always like to do a walkthrough just to let you know sort of what the stalking is like and what the expectations can be. Yeah, if you get the trees off to the right start, it's amazing what can happen, but really happy with this block back here. They won't have to do anything else to get it to free growing. This block is on its way. Beautiful spruce tree. And we got 3 feet tall. There's another one. Not very far away, another one. But what's really important to focus on is just the size of the stem of these guys. Just beautiful. They're not going to get pushed over by anybody. And that's critical. There's no veg competition that's going to take them out. Even this birch beside this spruce tree here, it's not going to be any problem at all. I mean, I'm just seeing awesome trees everywhere I look, everywhere I go. Fully stocked stand. Definitely something to be proud of, to leave to your children and your grandchildren. So you can have a lot of success by putting a full silviculture regime together in these types of sites and fertilizing at the time of planting with the Gilbert Smith-pak. Here's some trees in a brushy spot. Spruce coming through it just fine. Look in behind here. Come up and bring up the camera. This is why vigor is important, especially on these brushy type sites. He's going to snorkel his way right through without a problem because he got off to a good start. Keep ahead of the thimbleberry, keep up with it. Here's a cedar with thimbleberry, raspberry competition. Not going to have any issues, going to blow right through it. What else do I got here? Oh, look at this one. Leave this guy out. Now you can only imagine what it would be like to trying to get something going in this thimbleberry once it's established. But give the tree a good start. It just blows right through it. This is awesome. Let me show you one more just down here. I can find my way. Flash. Same thing. These very aggressive sites with lots of vegetation, you get the tree off to a good start. It'll keep up and get right through it without any further intervention, but the start is the key. Fertilizing at the time of planting is a huge part of that. Here's another one. So at any rate, I hope this gives you an idea of what can be accomplished when you fertilize at the time of planting, even on these very harsh, difficult sites that are full of competing vegetation. Key is, as quickly as possible after harvesting, fertilize at the time of planting with large stock. You have the best chance possible to be able to break out without any further costs or interventions. Now this is really something exciting to see. This is not my plantation, but they put in some Douglas-fir on one of these sites. But what I'm wanting to point out to you with this fir is you can see how it managed to get above the vegetation, but once again it would have been fertilized with the Gilbert Smith-pak at the time of planting. But how important is it that this thing got off to a good start? Look at me, look at the height of the fireweed. I mean, it may not look like much now because it's fall and it's starting to die off, but when this stuff is in the spring and the summer and it's fully leafed out, it can form quite the carpet that a tree, if it gets behind it, doesn't have a hope of getting through. So quick establishment by fertilizing at the time of planting, critical, because the vegetation here just doesn't wait around. But you can see the success that you can have if you put everything together properly.